Although my hamster Simba is sadly gone from our lives, he will always be a part of my life still, and such he will be a part of this channel forever. So I just wanted to clear that up before getting into this video, as I will still be making hamster videos from time to time. His death was unexpected. I didn't know how old he was, and there are incomplete memories that I needed to finish and as a part of this channel as well. So I hope you understand. If you're watching this video, you've probably already seen so many basic hamster care videos, but there's never too much information to put out there, and as such, I will be making a basic hamster care video. So the first thing you should know, whether it's a dwarf hamster or a Syrian hamster, hamsters need at least 450 square inches of space, and this is equivalent to a 40 breeder gallon tank. Hamsters need a lot of space. The cages sold in pet stores are not acceptable in the slightest, and you might find a hamster to be so tiny, but even something so tiny needs a bigger space. Bigger is always better. Some Syrian hamsters aren't even happy until they have 1,000 square inches of space. Acceptable options for a cage are fish tanks. Remember, the bare minimum is 40 gallons. And remember that this is just a bare minimum. Bare minimum is not going to be the best option. It's just what it is, the bare minimum, the lowest they can have. You can also use DIY bin cages, as well as the famous IKEA D12. It is about 1,000 and something square inches, and it's honestly almost the same price as those little cages that you see in pet stores, but just way bigger. So I definitely would recommend the D12 if you are going to spend your money on a tiny cage like that anyway. The next thing that is very important for hamsters is bedding. Hamsters are burrowing animals, and they require a deep bedding, whether it's made of paper bedding or wood shavings. You should have at least 6 inches of bedding, but always the more bedding you have is the better. Your options can be KT's Clean and Cozy. There's also Carefresh. Just make sure that you are not getting these scented versions. All the bedding should be non-scented. And for wood shavings, you want to avoid cedar and pine. Those are toxic to hamsters, but aspen wood shavings are perfectly safe. You can also use hay as a mix into the bedding to hold the tunnels that they make better. Always, I would suggest mixing beddings, as I find that it will hold tunnels better, and also they have more options to use for nesting as well. The next important thing for your hamster, as with any pet, is a healthy diet. You should be using a healthy and proper seed mix. Usually you will have to use at least 2 commercial seed mixes to meet the requirements. And I have a video on that I'll put above, and you can check that out. Just make sure that the percentages are always correct. Whether you have a dwarf or a Syrian, they have different needs. I also always suggest that you spread and sprinkle their food around the cage, as this will encourage their instinctive natural behavior to forage and work to get the food. It's kind of a boredom breaker in itself, and you want to do this so that your hamster doesn't get everything in a bowl and doesn't have that enrichment. You might also have to add extra seeds for variety. Variety is very important in their diet, and I have a guide on a Syrian hamster diet, although I would suggest using an actual tablespoon in that video, which I did correct shortly after. I did not use a proper tablespoon. So you want to make sure that you are using a proper tablespoon, and at least sprinkle food every 2 days. The next thing you want to have for your hamster is a wheel. Hamsters do need exercise, and they especially like to exercise at night, they are awake at night as that is their preferable time. Now you have many options for wheels, but you should make sure for a dwarf hamster, it should at least be 6 to 8 inches in size. A good option is the KT silent spinner. And for Syrians, you will want to make sure that the minimum is an 8-inch size wheel or a 12-inch. And this may look large. Oh my god. This may look large, but it is quite needed. Their back does not arch and cause problems when they get older. You want it so that their back is not arched and can run without any back problems or their bone structures messing up. So a big and proper sized wheel is very important, so make sure for a Syrian you are getting an 8 or 12-inch wheel, and for dwarves at least a 6 to 8-inch wheel. But I definitely recommend at least 8 inches in size for either hamster. And with all living things, water is very important. Now you have two options. You can either use a water bottle or you can use a water dish. Personally, I prefer water dishes as it is more natural and easier for them to get water. With the water bottles, you really want to make sure that it is dispensing water, and you can do that by just tapping at it and making sure that it is dispensing water without stop. Sometimes it will, so you really want to be checking on this often, and they should have clean water every day. Next thing is boredom breakers and chew toys. Hamsters' teeth are always growing, and therefore having wood and chew toys on hand will help to file down their teeth. Options you can use are as basic as cardboard and hamster safe wood. You can usually find chew toys pretty easily at the pet store, but also around the house. Toilet paper rolls work, as well as paper towel rolls and other cardboard pieces. And boredom breakers work very well to keep them busy and occupied and less bored, obviously. So options could be putting treats in said cardboard and making it harder for them to get. You can also use willow chews. I really don't have an example of a willow ball, but I'll put a picture. It has been used. All of my pets love them. So I definitely recommend willow balls, and especially if you put treats inside the tiny hole, that will definitely encourage them to use it, and it will enrich your hamster's life. So willow balls. Materials such as tissue paper, pieces of paper towel, or napkins, and hay, as well as coconut fibers, but make sure you are using coconut core as the fibers might be too long and tangled, so you want a mix, and that will usually be coconut core, which is a mix of coconut fiber and the little pieces of coconut fiber made into almost a fine form but not powdered. This will encourage your hamster to forage for nesting materials, and just in general is good to have around for variety. Make sure you aren't using anything ink-based such as newspaper or any material with paint on it. As long as it's a food dyed paint, that is safe, but as for other types of paint, it could be toxic and you don't want to have that in their enclosure. Now the next thing I really recommend for a hamster is a sand bath. Sand baths are incredibly important as they cannot be bathed in water. The way that hamsters clean themselves are with sand. It's fine enough for their fur coat to keep the oils at bay and without stripping the natural oils like water would. They might also use the sand bath as a area for using the bathroom, which makes it easier for you to clean that spot when you are spot cleaning. Now remember, a hamster's enclosure only needs to be changed half of the bedding once a month, and you can spot clean where they urinate every 2 days. They usually have a designated spot. You will have to observe their behavior and see where that is, but you should eventually find it and it will be pretty easy to spot clean. They really don't need their bedding to be changed as often as a week or two. I really recommend only once a month. They do like having their scent in the enclosure, and it really stresses them out when you change everything. You want to make sure that you aren't using any powdered form of sand or chinchilla powder dust, as this will mess with your hamster's respiratory system. You can use playground sand that you can find at Home Depot, and to be on the safe side, you can bake it in the oven just to remove anything that was in the sand. You'd also want to not use reptile sand, as this may contain calcium and this will harm your hamster. Now for the sand bath itself, I recommend a large container. It can be plastic or wood, but you want it to be a good size so that they can have a good amount of sand and also be able to be in the space and dig around and also have a hidey hole, as they do like to have some privacy when they are using their bathroom area or just their shower area. So I definitely recommend a large container and not so small. Part of a hamster's healthy diet does include fresh vegetables, and I recommend feeding them fresh veggies at least every 2 days, and it can be as much as a tablespoon. If your hamster is not used to having veggies, you do want to go slowly so that they get used to having vegetables in their diet, but it is an important aspect. Some veggies you can feed include romaine lettuce, spinach, carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, lots of options. As for treats, they can usually be dehydrated fruit or fresh fruit, but you really want to give them this only at most once a week. Treats are the smallest percentage in their diet, as it does contain sugar, and these could be, again, dehydrated fruits such as dehydrated apples, coconut, shavings, or fresh options such as grapes or apples as well. Treats can also include nuts that are a bit more fattening, like peanuts or walnuts. So just make sure that you are only doing that with the fattening seeds at least once a month or every 2 weeks. But treats are very tiny in their portions, so just make sure the fruit is limited to once a week. The size of the treat you are giving them shouldn't really be any bigger than a teaspoon. In fact, even just a bit smaller than a teaspoon. So just keep that in mind when giving them treats as well. Just make sure you research if your hamster can have the selected vegetable before giving it to them. Some veggies are toxic and you want to know what you can feed. But those are your basics for hamster care. Always do your research before getting a pet, and make sure that you have the at least bare minimum requirements. Always bigger is better when it comes to hamsters and pets in general. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below if you have a hamster. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!